Welcome everybody to Tow Truck Operators USA podcast. Today we have a different type of podcast. We're talking about the towing industry, how it's changed throughout the years, how we've changed from the early days, from the early 1900s, evolving down to the 1960s to the 1970s and 80s, and now to the 2020s, where things have changed dramatically. I would, definitely suggest that everybody pay attention to your equipment and know what you're dealing with at all times. Thank you for everyone that joins our podcast and giving us support and love that y'all do. We do gratefully appreciate it. Our number one goal is bring awareness, slow down, move over, and help educate our tow operators throughout the United States and everywhere else in the world. We battle all types of scenarios in our industry. There's nothing 100% safe in the industry, but we try to make it as safe as possible so we can get home to our families. So the best thing that we can do is, create education, share awareness, and communicate with one another and strengthen our brotherhood of the tow industry. Today we have a special guest. His name is David. I'd just like to give a warm welcome to him. Sir, can you please go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody in the tow industry?
Hi, Lynn. My name is Dave. I live on the west coast in Canada, just outside of Vancouver. I've been towing for more than 35 years.
Excellent. So, how long? When did you first get started in the towing industry? What year was that?
I was in August of 1986.
86. What made you want to get in the towing industry? What got you in it?
Well, one of my shops teachers in junior high school owned a wrecking yard just outside of the city that I grew up in, and I started working part-time for him on weekends at 14 years old. And I got into moving cars around the yard, and then that following winter, we had a really bad winter, and he said, well, you know what you're doing? Go to work. So, and that was my start. I'm very self-taught. Equipment way back in that day was nowhere near what it is today. So it's the industry has grown by leaps and bounds over the last 35 years. Go ahead.
Can you elaborate on the difference of the equipment and stuff? Kind of elaborate and tell us about the equipment. If you can explain in more details what type of equipment you used to operate. And what's the big differences of the equipment then versus what we have now, such as we were speaking about the records and we were talking about the flatbeds and stuff. And there's a lot of people that's joined this industry that's not aware of the type of equipment that we had back then and how it operated.
Well, back in those days, there was no such thing as a wheel lift. Everything was done with the cradle. Cars were also a lot different back then. They didn't have a lot of plastic and everything on them like they do nowadays. The first truck I ever drove was a 1979 Ford 1-ton with a Holmes 400 on the back of it. I ran that truck for, probably 6 or 7 months. And then from there, I went to a late 70s Dodge 3-ton with a Nomar wrecker on the back of it. Was mechanical, run off the winch line. That one was a real fun one to run. You drop it and you put it around back up to the casualty, and there was 2 little bars that you put in, locked in place on either side of the tire according to what size the tire was. Being from central Canada back in those days, the winters up here are absolutely brutal. So it makes our job a lot harder. And then I went from that to a 1976 Chevy 4x4 with a Holmes 440 on the back of it and a mechanical wheel lift. By no means as easy as it was today. Everything was mechanical, and when you're working in the ice and the snow and everything else, everything gets frozen, so it makes your job 3 times as hard as it should be. Back in those days, in Winnipeg, the city that I grew up in, we only had 3 flat decks, and they weren't. You had 1 hydraulic ram that was in and out, and the deck ran on a rail system that was called a gravity deck. So it tilted up and down on its own in a series of tracks. Nowadays, I mean, everything is so much easier. Hydraulics have greatly improved the industry.
Yeah, they have. It's crazy how technology has changed our industry. Even when I remember, I was used to running, early '90s model, flatbeds and stuff, and even that we had hydraulics then, even they gotten a lot smoother. The angles, the way you can maneuver your bed has gotten a lot better. I mean, it's crazy how it changes. The one thing we spoke about earlier when we spoke on the phone was it's crazy how the winch lines and everything we got these days compared to back then is completely night and day. And not only that, how they were utilized. A lot of people they think of wheel lift and records as with a wheel lift that you sit there and you control with hydraulics, and you got your winch lines that you loosen up and you pull with hydraulics and stuff like that. A lot of people don't have the understanding how things work mechanically without the hydraulics and stuff. If you don't mind, can you kind of elaborate about how it was using mechanical setup?
Well, mechanical. I mean, in some respects, the mechanical stuff, to me anyway, in some situations works better than the hydraulic stuff. It's the mechanical stuff is a lot stronger. Yes, it's harder to use, but I mean, if anybody that's down south there, I mean, I'm sure there's more than a few that follow the TV show Highway Through Hell, and you look at Jamie Davis, and he loves that old equipment. He loves the old mechanical stuff. It doesn't break as much as the hydraulic stuff, and the harsh winters, again, that we have up here play a major role in that. You want to talk about wire rope. Back in those days, they didn't have what we do now with the fiber core cable, which, I mean, in a theoretical sense, is supposed to, if that line breaks, it's supposed to just drop. Back in the day when we didn't have that, you're playing with your life sometimes, depending on the situation you're in with a broken winch line. I've seen a number of times where you're playing with a loaded bomb. Nowadays, you can even get the synthetic rope, which, I mean, in certain situations will outperform any steel wire rope. But when you're doing roadside recoveries or over cliff recoveries, the synthetic line doesn't stand up as well. So it's 6 of one, a half a dozen of the other. If all you're ever doing is hauling high-end cars, then the synthetic rope is the way to go. The fiber core cable works great in a theoretical sense most times, but you're still going to potentially end up in a situation where that rope could come back at you.
It's kind of like what I experienced when I told you I had a real close encounter where one barely touched my cheek, very scraped it, and man, that even still scared the heck out of me because it still swings back at you. The resistance is still there.
Absolutely.
It's not as highly enforced. The resistance ain't such as high, but it still makes it still dangerous. I mean, it still could take you down quickly, even with all the safety measures they took in the new wire we got.
I can't argue with you.
I tell you, it's just one thing I'd love to point out is what was it like being a tow operator back then compared to these today in times. What was the differences versus technology we had today, the setups we have versus back then? How was the everyday basis for y'all back then?
Well, towing back in the mid 80s was a lot simpler than it is now, especially just with technology. I mean, back in those days, you could get away with 2 unlock tools. I mean, mostly everything nowadays is done with 2 airbags and a long wire. But back then, you needed a GM slide lock tool and a Slim Jim. You didn't even need an airbag. You didn't need a wedge. You didn't need nothing because everything was done through the top of the door where the window comes out. Nowadays, you get into a lot of these cars that are so computer controlled that a lot of the newer BMWs and the Corvettes and high-end cars like that, they don't even recommend trying to unlock them. They just tow to dealer. The industry has changed so much over the years. It's made it definitely a lot more difficult, especially when you get into the heavy industry. A lot of these trucks nowadays that have the automatic transmissions in them, especially the I-shift in the Volvos, if you don't have any power and that thing's not running and you move that truck 3 inches in neutral, you're going to do anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000 damage. So you have to definitely know, be a lot more knowledgeable nowadays as opposed to back then. I mean, back then with the transmissions in the vehicles back then, you could neutral bomb almost anything and not hurt anything. That's not the case today. The other thing that you and I were talking about on the phone earlier is the fact of training in the industry nowadays, and I'm like me. I am RecMaster certified. I do believe that RecMaster does pose proper training in the industry. I don't believe myself that it goes as much in depth as it should. RecMaster more so just teaches you recovery aspects. I would like to see them go a little further and to teach new people how to actually hook up a vehicle in different situations and scenarios. Training
Most
nowadays,
definitely.
Training, and there's so many towing companies out there. It's almost as competitive as pizza is nowadays. A lot of these companies are only training guys for 3 and 4 days and cutting them loose, and they're being trained by a guy who's only got 3 months of experience. And to me, this is detrimental to our industry. It's hindering. It's hindering our industry because lack of training, it slows you down. And this is why a lot of the younger generation getting into this business nowadays only stick around for a very short period of time, because there is so much knowledge to learn. You can't learn it overnight. The only way you're going to learn it is through experience. A lot of the young guys and girls that come in here now, they're here for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, month and a half, and they're leaving because they're not making any money. I don't know what things are like in Texas for you. Up here, we're all commission paid. So we get
it's half and half here.
Job that we do.
It's some commission, some hourly, majority is commission. There's a lot of the larger companies, they do a lot of hourly stuff, but a lot of the small companies and stuff, they do commission base.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the heavy industry up here. I've been driving a heavy now for almost 7 years, and I can make $120,000 to $130,000 a year driving a heavy up here. But again, a lot of the people that are trying to get into this industry now get discouraged way too quick, and they leave. It's getting harder and harder to find a driver nowadays, never mind a good one.
That's what Buddy Bob was speaking of earlier. He's at a company that he's at right now. He's the only CDL driver with several different trucks that require CDL, because it's hard to find an operator that's actually qualified enough to operate the truck. And those that's qualified, has left the industry, for difference of reasons. But it's hard to find a good operator that, that'll stand through the thick and thin. And these new operators, they get trained, like you said, and they come and they go, because it's issues with training in giving false promises and stuff like that goes on.
Yep.
I mean, it just happens all the time.
And again, the industry is changing so fast that even some of the experienced guys like myself sometimes have a little bit of a learning curve even now, like towing the new Freightliner tractors. Well, if you have to front end lift this thing, you're 45 minutes to an hour just pulling the front bumper off so you can actually get at the thing to lift it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the manufacturers nowadays really don't take into consideration breakdown and towing.
No.
I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that's just overlooked. I think it would be rather cool if some of these auto manufacturers were to actually go and speak to some of the guys that have been in the industry for many, many years. And hey, how can we make your life easier? We understand that everybody's equipment breaks down at some point or another. What can we do to make this easier? It's never going to happen, though.
Yeah, it's a thing that we really wish we could see. I mean, I think there's pros and cons to the eye bolt. The eye bolt, great concept to a lot of Highline vehicles. They got the eye bolt in there because all you gotta do is hook up your winch line and pull up. But there's pros and cons too, because sometimes they do come out, and if they come out, Lord, best wishes. I mean,
eye bolts, I don't ever use
it's
them.
scary.
Those eye bolts, I will never ever teach anybody to use those things. They're dangerous. They're not as strong as the dealers say they are. If I have to pull a high-end vehicle up a deck, I have real heavy-duty ropes that I've made my own eyelets out of to wrap around control arms so that they're not doing any damage. You can nowadays go out and you can buy the short little straps with the metal D-rings on either end to wrap around lower control arms, or wherever you can get it.
Get a bridle axle straps.
Yeah, it's
those are amazing. I love them.
Yeah, well, let's say I mean they serve a purpose, and a lot of these smaller companies, these 2 and 3 truck operations that can't afford to buy that type of equipment, again, training comes into play in so many different areas, and there's so many guys that just don't have the proper amount of training to be able to train somebody else. It's something. Go ahead, Lynn.
I really, want to step on that, what you were saying. Safety is the most important. I hear so many cases where people are not getting the proper training, like you were saying, 3-4 days. Not even a week of training is good enough. Not even 2 weeks of training is good enough. Honestly, in my opinion, I like to see a 6 to 8 week training course. For new drivers, 6 to 8 weeks.
It's a lot of companies don't like having to pay a trainee hourly to do that.
Exactly. Pay hourly. I think it's a good thing to have.
Well, the more, again, now, the more training you have, the less chance you have of having a damage claim. Like I said, 35 years of towing, I'm the first one to tell you that it's impossible to have a damage-free career. It's just
that is impossible.
I laugh at guys. I laugh at guys that tell. I've been towing for 17 years and never had a damage claim. Well, okay, that says to me that there's things that have happened that you've not said anything to anybody about, and you've gotten away with it. It's it happens. That's all there is to it. I'm the first one to admit it. I mean, it's after 31 years in this industry, and I had a damage claim that had to go through the insurance company because it was $17,000 in damage. It happens.
But it happens though.
This is. It's fortunately the company that I was working for when that damage claim happened, nobody even got mad. It's out here on the West Coast. I'm a fairly popular operator out here because I've been in the industry for so long. Most guys that have been in the industry for a long period of time know who I am. It's damage happens. I mean. Sometimes it's because of something that the operator's done. Sometimes it's something that's beyond your control.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Yeah, I mean, I've had it happen to me. I had it happen when my boss, he flipped out back when. But I used to be, when I had my first damage claim, it was back when I was towing. And I was very much of a rookie. I remember that people wasn't so happy about the damage claim I had occurred because it happened to the brand new Camaro. That front bumper got messed up. And it was my fault. I owned up to it. My boss is upset about it, but at the same time, I was only towing for about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep.
You know, I learned the hard way. I got thrown in the truck with about a week of training and sent out to the field. And that's back when I used to work for AAA. And you know, there was supposed to be one of the number one safety advocates and stuff, but you know, they got to make sure they stay in touch with all their companies they do business with, and you know, help them as well incorporate more safety and requirements of
100%.
training, and make sure they receive it. Because
Yep.
my week of training was not
100%.
enough. Another thing I like to
because of
bring
all
up
this
is
COVID
that.
BS.
Oh, I know.
Go ahead.
The COVID stuff is not helping
You were gonna
at all. But no,
you were going to say another thing you wanted to bring up?
Yeah. The thing that I like to see is, what if we had, you know, federal regulations step in? Like here in the U.S., we need federal regulations to step in to require 8 weeks of training throughout the whole entire U.S. to make sure that everybody's qualified, has road experience where they have to ride with another tow operator that has a minimum of certain years experience. You know, and we're not talking Wreckmaster certification either, because Wreckmaster, like you're saying, it's a great aspect, but you need on-hand training with another tow operator that is qualified to give you that training. And I think that the trainer should be, you know, evaluated and tested for training, you know, certifications or so forth.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. Up here, I don't know about Saskatchewan or Alberta, but I do know in Canada, Manitoba, Ontario, and British Columbia, a lot of the bigger companies nowadays will not hire you unless you have Wreckmaster certification. Now, again, here we're at Wreckmaster teaches you recoveries, not hookups, not how to properly load and unload. And I'm 100% in agreement with you that there has to be more done. And once that happens, you're going to see the industry change for the better, and you'll see less damage claims. You'll see less accidents. The biggest thing that needs to happen with this industry is the slow down, move over law. And we had a blitz here 2 years ago, and it lasted all of 3 weeks, and they haven't done anything since.
Oh, Lord.
It's unfortunate. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. It's becoming more and more aware, though. A lot more people are noticing it. Jamie Davis, Highway 401, and then there's there's more and more tow shows on network TV all the time now. I mean, you get if you watch Netflix, you can see towies on Netflix out of Australia. There's the towing on Donner's Pass in California. So it's becoming more and more aware all the time. And with the Highway Through Hell, which is filmed where I tow, the awareness is becoming a lot more out here than it has in the many years before Highway Through Hell. And again, like I started to say, the COVID thing has changed so much out here. It's unbelievable. I used to have my own towing company that I've since had to shut down because, again, I was only a 3-truck operation, and the COVID killed my business. So I shut my business down, and now I'm again back to working full time for somebody else. There's so many things that need to change in this industry that aren't going to change overnight.
You know, I think that, you know, if we keep on and keep on at it, eventually we're going to save some lives, but I think we all need to be on the same page. We need to all be on the same page throughout, not just the U.S., not just Canada, but worldwide. You know, was recently invited to talk to this gentleman and think about interview is from a different country, and they're having the same issues with the slow down move over laws too. And we got to figure ways to make that happen. It's scary.
Well, one of the biggest
that
ways
it keeps
is law enforcement, and like I say, I don't know what a slow down move over ticket is worth down there. I do know here, your first offense, you get tagged not slowing down under 70 kilometers an hour and moving over to depending on which side of the road you're on, not moving over as far as you can. Your first offense is almost $400. Now, I mean, to some people, $400 is considerable money. Other people, they just don't care. It's so I don't know. I think we want to see this change real quickly. Get law enforcement. You slow down, move over. You don't choose to do this. Here, we're going to charge you $1,200 or $1,300. I bet you people will start to wake up and listen real quick.
Actually, you'd be probably flabbergasted about this. So here in the state of Texas, the slow down, move over penalty here, you will get ticketed $2,000.
Wow, that's awesome. I'd love to see that up here.
Yeah, $2,000 ticket you will get. You get points deducted from your driver's license. But not all states are doing it. And see, we got these laws here. But as Talis, I interviewed him not too long ago. Those of you that have listened and watched the broadcasts, Talis, he was speaking about the fact that we got to get the PD enforcing it too. If the PD ain't enforcing it, the law's not really helping. We got to reason with them, come in agreements with them, and find ways to get people on board with us, and all of us come together, because at the end of the day, all of us is on the highway. We got at first, usually most cases is EMS, fire rescue, the PD shows up. The actually everything's kind of getting cleared out. A few minutes later, you got the tow truck showing up. That's usually how it works. And so all that chain right there, EMS, PD, fire rescue, and also tow operators, all of us is on that line. So if all of us are on that line, all of us should be on the same page. In theory, that should be what it is, but that's not the case. Now, the other subject that I want to bring up as well is we were discussing is finding ways to fix this issue we have right now. So we have an issue through a lot of motor clubs throughout the United States and other countries as well, that where not only are they lowering the pricing, significantly, but they lower the price and to the points where there's always someone willing to do it cheaper. They're always pushing you for 30-minute ETAs, 45-minute ETAs, and if you don't give them a 35, 45-minute ETA, they hand it over to somebody else. And then somebody else gives them a false ETA, and then they're late to the call, but yet they were still rewarded and got the call. When, as good companies, we're going to give you adequate ETA. But, they got to do something with this transition.
As far as I'm concerned, any motor club or roadside assistance program, they provide so much business that they expect such a cutthroat rate. As far as I'm concerned, that ETA shouldn't even be an issue. The only thing that I have an issue with being an ETA is if you're towing for a police department, or i.e. something like a baby lockout where you got a baby in a car. That one, yes, that needs to be done ASAP. Police calls, they have a contract. They provide hundreds of thousands of dollars per year in business. Yes, they need a proper 20 to 30-minute ETA. Now, in major cities across North America, the companies that have these police contracts are usually big truck companies, like 20 plus trucks, 25, 30 trucks. So they can provide the 20 to 30-minute ETA. Now, somebody like AAA, they have many contractors working for them. I find it a little ridiculous myself, especially during the summer months and where it's not 30 or 40 below outside. If the customer has to wait for 45 minutes, so what? It's
Yeah.
not a dire need. I mean, and yes, there are certain situations where yes, I can understand. Oh well, I need you here in less than 30 minutes, but that doesn't apply to every situation that's out there.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I understand if it's elderly or if someone's in an unsafe area, like, highway call. Highway call, yes, urgent. That takes priority first and foremost for any
Yes,
other roadside call. Because regardless if
I
it's an
agree with
accident
you.
or not, if the vehicle's on the highway, it needs to be moved and you get off the highway immediately before an accident occurs. Um, and
Yes,
we also need to incorporate where we have different measures such as PD. They
like I
already
say,
back us up with lights, but and like you provide backup lights, but here in the states, we have a lot of insurance issues. Why they don't allow other companies to, you know, block for them? It's insurance is what delegates that. I like to see where insurance would be making that conflicting and realize that it should be okay. Insurance should be okay with the fact that we're blocking for another tow operator and make sure they get home safe too, because that's our mission. We got to find ways to make sure everybody gets home safe and hug and kiss their children and their wife or their husband, whatever the case may be, and make sure that all of them are, taken care of and supported heavily.
the statistics in North America, a tow op 4 to 6 tow operators a week lose their lives on the job. There shouldn't be any. It's like we were discussing earlier on the phone. Um, 6 to 8 of, or sorry, 4 to 6 of us a week is just it's unrealistic. I mean, we're 4 to 5 times more likely to die doing our job than a cop. I don't
Yeah,
think that's right.
it's not. Because it's kind of dated as well. And I like quoting from Todd because we had a great interview, and like he was quoting too is the there's one tow operator killed every 6 days. We're thinking that's becoming dated. I think those numbers have increased dramatically through the years, unfortunately. I wish that was not true. I really do wish that was not true, but that's not the case right now. We got so many tow operators getting killed so often. And not that those are getting killed, but those are getting injured that survive, how they get taken care of.
Yep.
We deal with those issues as well and make sure that, when they're injured and recovering, they're not able to work, that they still be able to provide for their families, make sure there's a roof over their head, food on the table, the children are getting what they need to take care of, things of that nature. Because as tow operators, most of the time when we have a family, the wife's at home, taking care of the children and everything else while we're out on the highway putting, make sure there's food on the table and a roof over their head, make sure we have shelter.
This is and this is in Canada. This is another problem with this industry as well. We have up here. It's called WorkSafe. It's like Workers' Compensation Board. Because we
Mm-hmm.
drive a vehicle at work. Now, if we get into an accident or we get hit, now is it an insurance problem or is it a workers' compensation problem? So the one side for the insure that covers the insurance on the vehicle, oh well, that's not our problem. Workers' compensation can deal with it. Well, you were driving while you were working, so that becomes a insurance issue. So now there's times where you're waiting much longer to get paid.
And see, that shouldn't be the case at all. At the end of the day, I think it's a mixture between both of them should pick up. I think that insurance needs to be able to cover auto injury and stuff like that. Workman's comp should be sitting there covering downtime, make sure that you still have income while you're trying to recover with your health issues after occurring the incident.
Yeah, and not have to worry about who you're going to fight to try and get your money.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate in the 35 years that I've been towing. I've been clipped 3 times, one of which I was off work for about 8 months. Fortunately, it only took 3 weeks for me to be covered by workers' compensation. So, I mean, that was, but I have so many
That's
friends here that are also tow operators that get that get hurt on the job, and they're months before they collect any kind of check.
Well, see, there's
It's,
another
I mean,
issue
at
that
that point,
we deal with right there. Is that right there? That's another issue right there. That's not okay. Here in the States, how great y'all have that. I hope y'all are very grateful to have that because if you're a contractor here, you don't get workman's comp at all. There is no such thing as workman's comp for contractors. There's none of that exists. You do not get any of that. As a contractor here in the United States, you do not get any health benefits or anything at all. You are considered your own entity. Now, there's gray lines involved in that, but more so than none, all you're going to get is what the insurance provides, and that's it. You don't get any type of workman's comp helping you get through the struggle, none of that. You're just SOL, and that's the battle we're facing here in the U.S. We face that on a day-by-day basis because there's that many toppers that does get injured that nobody knows about.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time, and it's very unfortunate. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
It's
there's
not.
Going to have to be some very, very drastic measures are going to have to be taken in order for this industry to change. A number of years back, probably 15 years ago, when I was towing in Alberta at the time, and the major companies, we all got together and we just stopped. We didn't do anything, nothing, no police calls, nothing. Our trucks aren't going to roll.
Good for y'all.
And I mean, it's hard to do nowadays. There's so many companies nowadays that if it comes down to it, somebody will say yes, and somebody will always do it cheaper. But we need to, in this industry as a whole, put our foot down and say, hey, nobody's going to turn a wheel until things change. But that's never going to happen.
See, here's the third thing I came up with conclusions of before. It was, if we can't get things done the way we've been trying to work at to get it to happen, we're going to eventually be forced to have a union to have somebody stick up for us. We're going to end up having to be forced to have unions in the towing industry.
There's a couple of companies here that are actually unionized. Again, any union is only as good as its members. If the people that are in the union aren't willing to stand up for what they believe in, you're still not going to accomplish anything. We have one company here. They have like 120 plus trucks, but their union doesn't do anything for them because none of the guys that are in this union are willing to represent that.
Wow.
It's unfortunate.
See, that doesn't solve any problem.
No, it doesn't. And once again, I mean, at the same time, I'm like so many other guys in the industry nowadays. I don't care what color your truck is. I don't care what color your uniform is. If you're stopped on the side of the road and I'm in my tow truck, I'm going to stop behind you. That's just the way it is. There you go. And again, there's so many drivers nowadays that in a tow truck, they go past an accident scene or they go past somebody loading on the side of the highway, and they're not moving over or slowing down. It's just everybody needs to understand.
Now, was it always like this back? Like back in the day, did y'all deal with these issues like this? Was it always like this? I mean, how was things now with these issues versus back then?
It's still a lot of the same as it was 35 years ago. The only difference back then was life was slower all the way around back then. I mean, we could talk about this for hours. Back then, a lot of mothers stayed at home with the family because they only needed one income. Nowadays, that just doesn't happen. You need two incomes to be able to survive. Back then, life was a lot simpler, a lot slower. And even back then, I mean, a police call on the side of the highway, that cop was sitting behind you and with his lights on until you were loaded and gone. Nowadays, you get an accident or something on the side of the highway, say you get a 30-day impound on the side of the highway, the cop hands you the paperwork 4 minutes after he's done, and he takes off because he's got something else to go do, and he leaves you there to fend for yourself. I get
Man,
nowadays. I mean, I'll be over on the side of the highway, and the cop will ask me, "Is it okay if I leave?" No, you're not going anywhere until I'm done. You're gonna sit there and
there
you're
you
gonna
go.
protect me until I'm ready to go. And a lot of cops don't like that. But hey, you're here to do a job just like I am,
Exactly.
and
I
that's
mean,
just
you're here to
that's the
protect
way
and
I look
serve.
at it.
Most definitely,
Yep,
man.
it's
Well, I tell you,
I've
it
told.
is. I wish we can get to our families
Go ahead.
home and safe, and I hope that things change, man. It's a matter of time, and it's going to take
Well,
time.
me too. It's like I told you earlier when I was on the phone with you. In 2007, I lost a girlfriend who was a tow truck operator to a drunk driver. She didn't deserve to die. She was 26 years old, had her whole entire life in front of her. It's
Yeah,
again, drastic measures have to happen in order to change this industry.
it happened. It has to happen at a global scale. I mean, for those of you listening here, yes, we are tow truck operators USA, but we stand for everybody, all tow ops throughout the whole United States and other countries too. Just like in Canada, British Columbia, anywhere in the world. If you're a tow operator, we still got your six. We all got to come together.
Always, like I say, I don't care what color your uniform or what color your truck is. If you're stopped on the side of the road and I'm in my truck, I'm gonna stop and cover you. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and that's how everybody has to have the mindset up. I tell a lot of people, in this industry, we have to stand up like a family. We got to treat it like a family. Because if you treat it like a family, you're going to support each other like a family. You're going to be there like a family no matter what. You're going to help one another. You know,
Yep.
but if you don't treat it like a family, you're just going to overlook things and it's just going to blow off. But if you treat it like a family and you feel like a family in the towing industry and you stick by one another, we're only going to come together stronger than we ever have. And with today's technology,
Yep.
we can make this happen. We can make it happen. It's not if we can,
Most
but when
definitely.
we can. And so now
Exactly.
with technology, I'm trying to make this happen. It's not easy. It's a lot of time consumption. You know, we're not professionals at this. We're professional as tow operators, but you know what? It's about making a stand up and saying we're done. We're sick and tired of this. Things got to change. We got to get the word out there. We got to get everybody to understand we're tired of it. We want to go home to our families. We have to hug and kiss our family when we leave to go work and when we come home, not knowing if the next day may be the last because it's uncertain in our
That's right.
industry. We could be gone as we speak in a matter of a few hours, or we just don't know. So if we can support one another and help each other to get through this and make things a stronger bond and get out there and get the awareness out to the right people and try and make a difference, we might just be able to do it. But for those of you that think
For
that,
those of
oh, well, it's
those,
never going to happen, it's not going to happen because you're not putting the effort in to make it happen. And now we are going to make it happen.
we're certainly going to try anyway. I mean, those that follow Highway Through Hell and know who Ken Monkhouse was, he put it perfectly. The only people that care about tow truck operators are tow truck operators. Most
True.
people
Very true.
don't even think about it. They don't second guess it until it happens to them, and they're sitting on the side of the highway, broke down, and wow, that was scary, man. I don't know how you do this job. And my response to that all the time is, now that you understand what I go through on a daily basis, 5-6 days a week, now maybe next time when you see somebody in a tow truck sitting on the side of the road with their beacons on, you'll slow down and move over. Oh wow, you have I promise. I mean, I never knew that this was what it was like until it happened to me. It's
Yeah.
it's I don't know. Like I say, it's the price of tickets for. You guys have it good down there, $2,000 for not slowing down and moving over. Up
Mm-hmm.
here, your first offense is like
Exactly.
just under $400. And people
And I
back
like to
they
see
don't
that
even care
change.
about $400.
Yeah. What's
Yep, me
$400
too.
these days, unfortunately? I mean, what is $400?
Peanuts
I
nowadays.
mean,
Pocket change.
a one car payment, you know? Not even a
Yep.
full car payment.
Yep. No,
I mean,
it's unfortunately something that's going to take sooner than longer to change.
and it also not only that, I think that we need to sit there. We need to get our congressmen, your local government. We need to get them on board. We need to get our governments involved and let them recognize that we're out here and that we need changes. We need changes in our industry. We need to make it happen. Not tomorrow, not next year, not the next decade, but now. And it's what needs to be done. Get in touch with your local governments. Get in touch with them.
We do with a lot of the companies out here. We do twice a year where we do slow down, move over campaigns where we're actually out in the public, where we will go on a major highway and for 2 hours purposely block off a lane or two and make everybody slow down. And there's signs, and there's a lot of us down on the side of the road with all our high vis on, all our beacons going.
Yeah.
But again, unfortunately, most people don't care. They just want to get to where they're going as fast as possible. And that's one of the things that is actually very much hurting our industry.
It is.
I'm a very, very big advocate for slow down, move over. I work alongside of all the big companies out here. And I've been towing on the West Coast for 20 years. I mean, like I say, I've been out here for so long. All the guys that have been in the industry long enough, they all know who I am. So, and they all know what I'm about. And trying to teach the younger generation coming into this business, it's, again, they're like the people that are break down on the side of the highway the first time and, I had no idea how scary this actually is. There's a lot that needs to change in this industry. And it's going to take a while.
Well, man, I tell you, I do appreciate you coming on today. Help spread the word, anytime. Get out here and explaining, about, the old school versus the new school way of towing and everything. And, get this knowledge out here and get these young cats realizing what equipment we had to use back then and how good we got it. So since we got this good, why don't we sit there and use our skill sets more safely and be appreciative of what safety measures we have now? And also, for them to be careful when they get in this industry to make sure they get the proper training, make sure they get out there, go for a company that you actually are going to get educated and trained properly to make sure you make it home to your family. Yeah, there might be a company that offer you only a week of training. Don't go for that company. Go for a company that cares enough about your life to make sure you get the right training. That I can't express that enough.
The other thing that's slowly starting to change. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, my friend.
The other thing that they're starting to try and change up here, I don't know about down there. In some places up here, they're actually starting to allow red and amber flashing lights. There was a study done where I just noticed a comment here that Mater made about some companies running with their beacons on while they're loaded and running through town or out on the highway. There was a study done with, I don't remember how many people it was, but they've actually found the amber flashing lights attracting. So people are migrating towards the amber flashing lights. It's now again red and blues. You see, from a distance away, you see the red and blues flashing. Everybody slows down because they don't want to get.
Nope.
It's just something else.
So we got to figure these things out.
This industry went wrong many years ago with the slow down, move over, because way back then when life was simpler and slower, it wasn't enforced. If it would have been enforced 25 years ago, I think it would be a lot different today.
It could have. Most definitely it could have.
I can't go back in time.
Yeah, I know, boy. If we did, boy, oh, we will be hurting so much from all this work. I'm telling you.
Yep, no doubt, no doubt. That's
But, all right, bud.
but
Well, I just want to give a call to everybody. I just want to tell everybody I do appreciate the support we get out here in the towing industry. As I always tell everybody, make sure if you see a tow operator, any first responder, make sure when you see them, tell them thank you for what they do, because they do make an ultimate sacrifice. All first responders do put themselves at risk and their families at risk. So, if you just give a little gratitude and tell them thank you for what you do, it will go a long ways. So make sure to do that. And then I'd like to say a prayer before we end this. Lord, I just want to pray that we sit there, we make sure that our tow operators and all of our first responders make it home tonight and make it home throughout the rest of this year. We sit there and we have lost too many, and we just like to pray that we may be able to get them home safely to their families and be able to be there with them and spend the time that they have with their families and make sure that they recover for any injuries they have occurred in this industry. Lord, I pray that one way or another that we're going to be able to find ways to save lives in our industry. We have lost way too many. Lord, I pray that we help to strengthen the bond for all of our first responders to get through the travesties that we have encountered throughout these last few months and this god awful times of life that we have encountered. And Lord, I want to thank you for letting us make it through every day we have made it through today and tomorrow. In Lord's name, amen. All right, my friend. Will you take care of yourself? Be safe. Thank you for
you as
being on
well. It was
part of the
great
show
talking to
today.
you,
And
and I'll
if you
stay in
got any
touch.
questions, let us know. Let your tow brothers out there and sisters know about us, and we'd love to have y'all on board. We be doing. Everybody knows that we're gonna be doing shows periodically on the podcast. We got our upcoming Under the Hook going on tomorrow. So make sure that everybody joins our video podcast tomorrow, Under the Hook. We'll be on there tomorrow evening. It would be on between 7 and 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. So make sure to join in on there. Until then, be safe out there. Watch y'all six, and God bless.
Play safe, boys.